Good evening. It's Tuesday night over here. I think it's the 7th of February. A couple of days after the full moon, I have some comments. Number one, regarding the Turkey earthquake, that was absolutely massive, okay? And the death count is going to go much, much higher. We already know that. Now, there was a beautiful article from the Epoch Times today. It's about this earthquake watch group. They're basically a bunch of scientists who track global earthquakes using all these softwares and you know data that collects from all over the planet. And the boss guy predicted it almost to the day and to the number. He predicted the location days in advance, about 3 or 4 days in advance. 7.8, somewhere around Turkey, around the time of the full moon. Now, he didn't say the full moon, but that's basically when it happened, give or take a few hours here or there, give or take a day or so here or there. Now, here's the most important thing as far as I'm concerned. He said the factors that allow him to predict with such accuracy is to do with the movement of the planets. Wink, wink. So there you go. He talked about it in terms of electromagnetic energy and gravity and how it pulls on the Earth. Now, of course, that does exactly the same thing for we the people. Some of you might have noticed that the full moon was extremely stressful across the whole of planet Earth. So many riots, so many protests, so many catastrophic weather events. Keeps going and going. Global financial system. The United States of America itself with the Aquarius-Leo axis. Guess what's exactly right between the Aquarius-Leo axis, which is a very stressed axis under the full moon? There we had Uranus in Taurus, roughly 15 degrees, close to the North Node. What was I predicting for the last few years regarding Uranus and Taurus is that we're going to see a lot of radical, highly unpredictable, very disturbing shakeups regarding planet Earth in every way, shape, or form. Almost chaotic. Fires, hurricanes, tornadoes, heat, cold, tsunamis, volcanoes. What else did I miss? Anyway, all of the above. On top of that, I predicted chaos and upheaval with animals. And of course, what have we seen? Also, chaos with the global financial system. What have we seen? It's also highly predictable, but I've never seen anyone who predicts earthquakes swear that the main factor was the influence of the planets. Now, here's the real thing you might be asking. Why Turkey? And he qualified his predictions by saying the planets orbiting affect the whole of planet Earth everywhere. Every tectonic plate, every ocean, every mountain, and wherever there is the maximum fragility in the tectonic plates, that's where the earthquakes will occur. And he already had plenty of evidence in advance that the tectonic plates around Turkey were extremely fragile and fracturing already in advance. So he just connected a bunch of dots and said, okay, big fat earthquake, Turkey, around the time of the full moon. There you go. Of course, that sent uproar with scientific community across the world. Like, how dare you? You can't predict earthquakes. Who do you think you are? Planets? What are you talking about? Anyway, that's my first little story for you. I was really, really pleased when I saw that. I know it sounds awful, but and because there's so much tragedy, so much death, but it made me feel like I'm not insane as an astrologer in the way that I do astrology. Next thing I wanted to bring up is something really obvious. I hope this doesn't get me shut down. But you might have noticed that China is prepping for war. Big time. Big time, big time. There's a bunch of links that I've been putting out on Truth Social and on my Twitter that I really about material that I really don't really dare put here on YouTube, even though actually it's all right. Yeah, my sources don't really operate directly through YouTube. I go through the Epoch Times for a good portion of my information, and Epoch Times is amazing because they go all over the world. They don't just focus on American politics or Hillary or Joe or gender issues or whatever. They go all over the planet with everything. The other place that I like to source is WION, World is One News. You might have heard of that. Anyway, I scroll through huge amounts of material very, very quickly, and I cherry pick the things that really concern me personally. Anyway, it's become very obvious that China is prepping for war. Okay? Think about it. They are amassing soy, wheat, corn, oil, gold, silver, copper, all these raw materials for survival. They know it's going to be brutal, that there's potential extreme loss of life, okay? And simultaneously, China is actually deliberately destroying its economy and its population in order to prepare for war, and then all the resources that would normally go towards so-called trying to maintain a healthy population of happy Chinese people, all those resources go to the war machine. And guess who is enemy number one? Us. USA. So my question is, this sounds really simplistic. If China is preparing for war, why aren't we? Why are our so-called leaders focusing on gender issues and inclusivity issues and ESG in the military? And the military is, oh my God, if you've seen some of the material that I've seen, it's sad, it's embarrassing. Now, of course, that's the military that is presented to we the people through the MSM, mainstream media. But there is an actual hardcore military that actually knows what it's doing. But they've been raising their hand for quite a while now. Please, dear federal government, do your frickin' job and get us the funding that we need to do what we have to do. Because there are people looking at us, very big, large, hungry, thirsty, angry, violent, powerful, evil predators looking at us, waiting for that moment to strike. Okay, the subject of World War III is already starting to go mainstream. So, there you go. I've been calling it out for a long time. So, are you prepping? Think about it. Imagine, how would you function? Okay, I'm going to move to the next one, a nice little segue here. Everybody knows about the story about the balloon. That turned into one of the most shockingly embarrassing stories of, I don't know in how long. And everyone has their concepts and theories about what's really going on there with the balloon and everything. And I was watching, what's his name? Roman Balmakov over on Epoch Times, and he was doing a fantastic analysis of the scenario and describing how the weaponization of all sorts of things has been going on since forever, World War II especially, and the 60s especially, and including massive balloons. And one of the issues about balloons, of course there's other things that can carry these weapons, is a balloon can go very, very high and undetected. A U.S. fighter jet can only go up to about 60,000 feet. That's about it. After that, you have to use hypersonic missiles and rocket propulsion and things. Anyway, Roman was talking about EMPs, electromagnetic pulses. And the way that these are created is typically a nuclear weapon is sucked up way, way up high. The higher it goes, the more effective it is as an EMP. Then they explode the nuclear weapon, and of course that creates nuclear fallout and shock and wave and all of that. But one of the side effects of these certain types of nuclear weapon is that they send these electric shock waves that just wipe out anything in sight. So if you release an EMP like 100 feet above the ground, it's going to have a very short window, like a focus, like a flashlight lens. If you release an EMP 20, 30, 50, 60, 80, 100 miles up, and it's really big, you can just release one EMP and it can wipe out the whole of the United States electrical grid. Not only that, it'll wipe out all the computers, the transistors, the wiring, and everything in your car, your microwave, your smartphone, your computer, your laptop, the internet, everything. So within a matter of hours, the United States would be plunged into pre-industrial times. I'm talking about, the agricultural era, which is all we had up until about 150 years ago. So obviously the Amish are very well prepped, but pretty much anybody who lives in a major city, you're screwed. Totally, utterly screwed. Pinball's notes marked out some of the best prepper survival places. And of course, they're as far as ways you can get from nuclear targets, nuclear facilities, nuclear military facilities that would be seen as targets by our enemies. And so you end up, what are the best prepper locations? Well, we can talk about that another time. But anyway, it includes rich land, water, and the ability to be very, very private, and the ability to defend yourself, your privacy, your money, and your loved ones, and your animals, and all your vital resources. So that EMP story, I think, is very closely linked to the balloon story. You really, really got to think about this stuff because it's actually happening. 2025. Okay, Uranus and Gemini 2025. And then when Mars transits through Uranus and Gemini a few times, it's going to be extremely volatile. Those are the revolutionary energies that coincide and are action replays from 250 years ago, okay? During the Revolutionary Wars in the United States and Western Europe. So, if you're not prepping now, you need to start prepping now. You got about 2 years. I would do everything you can as fast as you can. Oh, sorry, there's an ice cream machine or something close by. I got another little thing here for you. And it's about, sometimes I use that term, the will to live. Well, every now and again, I cheer myself up to going to some of the animal channels, especially places like the Dodo, but there's quite a few of them, and some of them focus very exclusively on animal welfare and beautiful animal survival stories. I'm sorry, it's getting very dark. Anyway, and there was a beautiful one today about a little tiny black sheep who was growing up, and they realized that she has neurological problems. And she had this wobbly leg syndrome, so she couldn't really stand up properly. But the people who took her in, they have a sort of an animal sanctuary with a lot of other animals too. And they all look after each other. And the lady who runs it put this little black sheep next to this big, gorgeous dog. And the dog accepted the little baby sheep immediately. And so the little sheep couldn't really stand up or walk, so it was always leaning on the dog. And of course, the owners of the farm created a little, cart for the little sheep with back wheels and little front wheels. And it was very hard at first to get the little sheep to understand that it actually could stand up using its four little legs. And it needed to learn that it's possible. Now, the farmers realized that she would never run or walk properly, but she was very, very full of life, okay? And so eventually, with lots of training and coaching, they got her to get used to the little cart. And at first, she could only go backwards, and she was very frustrated. But with little bits of teasing with food, they finally trained her to move forward. And once she discovered she could move forward, oh my God, she turned into this little rocket ship. It was beautiful to watch. And she realized that she is absolutely amazing. And she turned into this clown. She turned highly competitive. She became very, very friendly. And all she wanted to do was hang out with all the other animals doing whatever they do, especially running with the dogs. And of course, they all kind of went, but she's great. We love her. And it was beautiful to watch this little creature. And in the end, what it really came down to is this concept of the will to live. Not a lot of animals would have survived. Not a lot of animals in the wild would have survived. They would have been given up by the parent. It's no point. The parent can't afford to raise let's say, a redundant child. So they abandon them, and the child dies of thirst and starvation and neglect. Happens all the time. Anyway, the will to live was amazing to witness in this little sheep. It was a beautiful, beautiful story. So I'm going to leave it like that on a happy note. Finally, one last thing. I want to invite you to come and hang out on Thursday night, 5 p.m. Pacific time, on my Zoom. Okay? It's going to be an experiment. We're going to see what happens. You can find the Zoom link in the description box below of every video that comes out on this channel. At least the bigger videos. I don't know if it comes out on any of the shorts. But anyway, I hope you can hear this. I hope you can see this. Love thyself. Bye-bye.